topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Welcome to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo, Dr. Shirley and medium Kelly White.
Two perspectives, one world.
This is Both Sides Now.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Both Sides Now. I'm Dr. Shirley.
And I'm medium, Kelly White.
And John, our engineer, is here.
Hello, hello, hello.
So how are you doing, John?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kel?
Looking
I'm
forward to the
doing
show.
great. I'm still following my New Year's resolutions.
That's wonderful.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Yeah,
Well,
not
we hope
cheated once.
That
That's
is
great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And I feel good. Really good.
Yeah. I hope that everybody out there is following the same.
Notice how Shirley hasn't said hers.
What did I say mine was? I don't remember what mine was.
I don't think.
So
Did you have one? Quick, come up with
I
one.
don't think I had one. So I'm following it because I didn't
Okay.
have
Okay.
one.
There you go.
There we go.
She made a resolution not to have resolutions this
Right.
year.
There we
That's
go.
what
There
it
you go.
is.
There we
Okay, and it's working well.
It's working well.
Good.
So I
Funny.
have to show everybody,
Oh, my
John,
gosh.
our
Aw.
engineer, gave me just the most thoughtful, beautiful, wonderful
very
gift ever. So I have to show everybody.
Oh, there it is.
Barry's record made in a clock. I mean, how wonderful is this? And he's so cute.
Oh. I saw it. I was like,
going-
Shirley would love that. I have to
haven't
get that
decided
for
if
her.
it's going to go in my office or at home because I want to see him at home.
I'll get you two.
Maybe I'll go back and forth. Maybe it'll come with me back like my computer
We'll get you
does.
another one made. Yeah.
Well, I got a
thank you,
fabulous.
John.
I got a salt crystal lamp from
She
John.
sure did.
And I love it. Thank you,
You're
John.
welcome, hon.
That's so sweet.
These are our belated Christmas gifts.
So I know, and I forgot mine still.
Don't
Hours
worry
for
about
them.
it. It's all good. You've done so much for me over the years, and I
So-
appreciate you.
Well, we're going to bring them one day. I don't care if it's in the summer. You're going to get your Christmas gift.
I love Christmas after Christmas because, you
Yeah,
know,
there's
it's
still something to look
the
forward to.
excitement
Going.
all over. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's-
So today we're going to talk about anger.
Anger. Well, it is a universal theme, isn't
Kind
it?
of like that 5-letter word that many people, feel that it's a 4-letter word. Everybody wants to stay away from it.
What would make that a 4-letter word? Like stop?
No, like, like a bad, everyone refers to bad words as 4-letter words.
Oh, got it.
so
Got
I
it.
meant like
okay.
a bad word.
Yeah. I didn't understand that. Sorry.
Never mind. It was my futile attempt at a joke. But
I was like, what is she
Never
talking
mind.
about?
So, but anger. I mean, it really.
It's universal. It's not limited to age group. It's not limited to culture, to race, to economic level,
Well-
social status, or educational.
Yeah, but-
Everybody can have it.
Well, because it's an emotion. Everybody has emotions, and we're so afraid of anger. Well, it's really kind of, associated or coupled with how we have maybe as kids, observed people react to anger. The behavior with anger is the reaction to anger. It's not anger itself. And that's, I think, the most important distinction that people need to have.
Okay, so does that mean that if a child witnesses anger,
The reaction to anger. So a parent losing it, screaming, throwing things, hitting mom, or
how
mom
frightening.
hitting dad.
Oh,
Yes, that's the reaction to the emotion of anger. It is not anger. It's not the emotion itself. Yes, the emotion itself can feel like, when I tune into my anger, sometimes if I'm really angry, it feels like a volcano erupting inside of me. But I don't have to react to it. I can choose how I want to react to it. Sometimes it will be setting a boundary and saying no. Sometimes it will be maybe, speaking loudly. But it doesn't have to be punching or hitting or yelling or
so
screaming.
it doesn't have to escalate, is
It
what
doesn't
you're
have
saying.
to escalate, right?
Okay, so
right.
there is healthy anger.
There is anger. In fact, is a healthy emotion. We call it healthy aggression, and anger is actually life force.
It is
It's
that
the
vital life
energy-
force.
Yeah, it's the energy of vital life force. And unfortunately, because it's been so associated with something bad and negative and scary,
Right.
that we shut it down. So many times I'm working with someone who has an anxiety, who has a lot of anxiety, and what we discover that underneath that is anger. Once they get in touch with the anger, all of a sudden the anxiety starts to dissipate because it's no longer needed to hold the anger down.
Well, and depression too.
yeah,
Depression is anger turned inward.
Right.
Yeah.
So anger is actually a very healthy emotion, and it's so important for people to start becoming curious and getting in touch with anger and disassociating or uncoupling this negative idea that we have about anger.
And so, would you say that unresolved anger is possibly the problem for a lot of people? That they have unresolved anger, and that turns into they go into a relationship with unresolved anger.
Absolutely. And then little things trigger it, and then we lose it. And then again, oh my God, anger's bad. And sometimes I see that people who are very people who are waving at the Periscope people, that's why we're waving here. They're like, who are they waving to? They thought maybe it was your people on the other side that were waving to.
No, years ago, I actually used to do, I was worked at Disneyland as a Minnie Mouse. So I used to do this in parades, and Magic Mountain, I'd do this in parades. Wasn't allowed to talk, but I was allowed to wave.
I did not know that. You were Minnie Mouse?
Back in the day, actually I was Mickey. Back in the day.
That's hilarious.
Long day ago.
Oh, wow. You must have stories.
There were a lot of anger in those Mickeys. Bringing it back around. Actually, somebody actually came up to me and kicked me.
You're kidding.
Oh, I got kicked. I got punched.
Oh,
yeah,
my
it was
God.
awful.
You were too happy for them.
I was.
They were angry.
My parents actually, it's the only thing they ever agreed on. They said I had to quit.
Oh, that's...
And I had to, yeah.
So what you're saying is there's not a problem with having anger. It's just how you channel it or how
we react to anger.
Okay.
And so there's this wonderful book that I think you have up, and I'll show too, that I came across, and I read it, and it's everything. I talk in my book too. I talk a little bit about how to deal with anger, but this book is all about anger. It's called Mindful Anger. And she says, the same thing, that anger is a healthy emotion. When you cross my boundary, when someone crosses my boundary, I have a reaction to it. I'm supposed to get angry. That's the life force. That's no, you come too close. Now, if I punch you out, that's not a
That's taking it to another place.
Well, that's not a great reaction to anger. I mean, actually, it's a reaction to anger. It's not the best response to anger. I could say, please don't come closer. Stop. You're invading my space. That kind of thing. But we've so associated the reaction to anger itself that people are so afraid of it. And what I was going to say is I have found some people in the spiritual world talk about, if I'm Zen and if I'm, if I've worked everything through, then I don't feel anger ever. And that's just not true.
Oh, no.
It's
that
just not
couldn't,
true.
It's not possible.
So a lot of times I feel that they're kind of, up here and they're not grounded because they're too afraid to feel anger because if it's not, what's that word? If we've, if we're
so evolved.
You're right. If I'm evolved, then I don't feel anger.
Enlightened.
Enlightened.
That's it. That if I'm enlightened, I can't feel anger, and that's just not true.
It's not true.
Not
at all.
If somebody curses me out, I'm going to feel anger. I may not react to it, and I may actually say, "I'm sorry," you're, or walk away, and I'm actually. But the anger is going to be there.
Well, yeah, of course.
So, yeah.
So what is a good way, are there any tips or techniques of helping with when you have like unresolved anger?
Right. Well, it's being mindful of it, is taking a moment and really keeping that connection with your body. Because
so that's very spiritual, what you're saying, actually.
Really?
Too. Oh, yeah, be mindful of it.
Yeah.
Be mindful of it. Of what it feels like. So go on, in your body.
Your body will always tell you, So if I'm talking to someone, or even you can even do it, in your home, going, the last time that somebody said something that upset you, or the last time you knew pissed you off.
Okay.
And notice what happens. Many times it'll be a tightness in your stomach or a tightness in your chest. Or for me, when I was first getting in touch with it, it really, when I sat with it, it really felt like a volcano that was just, erupting. And you just sit with it and you notice it. And you can ask yourself, is it okay for me to notice this right now? And if the answer is no, it's not okay because it doesn't feel good.
Well, sometimes people are in such a heightened state they can't get there at that moment because their anger is very explosive.
Well, and that's why I'm suggesting when you said how do you get in touch with it, I'm suggesting that you do it at a time where you're not that heightened level.
Yeah, okay.
When you start to notice it.
Okay.
And so then you can even say, okay, is it okay to not be okay with feeling this right now? And still sit with it. Sometimes it'll feel like a tsunami, sometimes it'll feel like a little ripple. And just wait, because it'll dissipate. It'll start to, that's just how our nervous systems work. If it's not dissipating, it's something maybe that's very triggering that hasn't been resolved. And so then you can start to be curious with, how do I want to work this through? How do I want to deal with this?
Okay, so you would have a plan then almost.
Well, you ask yourself, how do you want to deal with this? So is it setting a boundary? Is it not associating with that person anymore? Is it...
Well, let me run something by you. This is very interesting. I had a couple the other day that the woman is very, the woman that comes to see me is very, very kind and very nice, just a kind person. And her partner has a lot of rage issues and is constantly raging. So the gal that comes to see me said, what can I do? What can I do what am I doing that's, setting her off? What am I doing? She wasn't doing anything. Just being, because the other gal's so angry all the time. So what do you do in a case where one person actually believes it's them that's like causing the problem? When it's really the person has such anger issues. The other person.
Well,
the other partner.
your client may be triggering her because maybe she has a lot of unresolved anger with mom or with dad or somewhere that attachment relationship.
Well, there was
so
not a good attachment
that's
there.
the key, right? And if anger is your go-to, so if someone's angry all of the time,
this
many
gal
times
is.
what's underneath there is hurt and shame and other emotions that are not easy.
Now, what
to
happens
get
if
to.
you have somebody like that? And I know this because her parents were so angry all the time. Is anger a learned
partner's
behavior?
parents?
Yeah, partner's parents.
How we behave to anger, how we react to anger is a learned behavior.
Okay.
And the problem is that as parents, there really isn't now with this mindful movement, we're starting to learn how to teach our kids to identify their emotions so they can just kind of see it as an emotion and they don't have to feel like there's something wrong with it and then it goes into shame. So a parent, for example, like when I was growing up, I would get angry. Oh, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it, and so you're kind of feeling like, well, was I not supposed to get angry? Oh, my God. And all of a sudden that turns into like a shame thing. So you shut the anger down.
Okay.
But if a parent says, wow, that must have made you angry or you look angry, it's okay, and you
So
and you say it's okay.
Make it okay for for
Right.
them. Okay.
You can then say, but it's not okay to hit or it's not okay to, kick me or whatever the kid did in response to anger that wasn't okay. So you separate the emotion from the behavior. And so that teaches a child that the emotion is okay. And then as a parent, you kind of teach your child what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Two separate things, but we don't separate it. We just say, no, don't do that. Don't kick me. That's, and we punish the person for the behavior, but we don't separate the two.
Right.
Or we don't even say it's okay to feel angry, like if, you have to say no to your child because they can't eat a cookie before dinner. And then the child throws a tantrum and say, yeah, it's hard when mommy says no sometimes.
So
That's it.
almost
So
validate it.
Not even almost.
Okay, just do it.
Definitely validate the emotion,
Okay.
but it's not okay to throw the cookie jar on the floor, kind of thing. So again, the kid maybe is reacting to the anger by reacting to the news by just getting angry, so you just validate the emotion. If they do something that's inappropriate, then you talk about that separately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So for someone who's angry all the time, for your client, I'm sure you're working with this, she needs to set boundaries.
No, I'm struggling with it.
When when her partner is getting angry, she needs to set boundaries. She needs to either walk away, if they're on the phone, I'm going to hang up the phone right now and hang up the phone, and remove herself from that situation.
Right.
Because she can't just sit there and take it. And she needs
well,
to
that's just it. And
understand,
so many people do. That surely so many people will sit with a partner that is raging all the time.
Yeah.
Do you ever think that medicine is good for that? For a raging person?
Yeah.
Like a raging bull. There's some ragers out there.
Well, there are some ragers out there, but what I always look at is, we tend to focus too much on the behavior and we don't have enough curiosity to what's underneath the behavior. Okay. Now, if the partner doesn't want to get help, that's a different story.
Completely.
Then your client needs to wonder why she's there.
Right.
But if the partner wants to get help, then that's different. But it's really being curious about what's underneath the behavior, not so much the behavior itself. I mean, the behavior, it's like with kids too. Right. When kids are at school and we get, the teacher calls us and the kid's acting out, and we want to, they're going to get in trouble for acting out.
Right.
We're just taking care of the behavior, but there's a reason why. Kids don't just act out just because they're acting out.
Right,
There's a reason for it.
Would you say to recognize the pain, to see where the pain is coming from? So could it be recognizing the pain of rejection? Because rejection causes a lot of anger.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if we talk about some of the issues that cause the underlying anger.
Yeah. Well, as adults, we feel, if there's this unresolved anger, it's usually because a parent didn't attune to your needs.
Okay.
That will cause any kid to be angry. It may not feel like anger, so you might think back and go, well, I don't remember ever being angry as a kid. it's not going to feel like anger because we shut it down because we can't be angry at a parent because I need them to feed me, so
sure.
I can't be angry. But it does turn in. But it is anger because I mean, as an adult, doesn't it make sense that if I'm asking you to do something and you go, no, blow it out your ass, I'll get angry at you because I mean, I asked you for something, right?
Yeah.
So same with a kid. You know, and so too much of shutting that down, all of a sudden you have an adult that gets pissed off at someone, you know, cutting them off in the freeway, and they yell, and they, you know, the driving people getting angry, you know.
Oh, road rage.
Road rage, yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and you know, anything will trigger them. You know, little things trigger people who have unresolved anger.
I notice that people that are waiting, like people that wait in line, have some unresolved anger.
That can trigger people.
It can
into
really
their
trigger
anger.
people.
Yeah, to become irritable and stuff. And so this book, you know, Mindful Anger, has some really neat exercises on how to kind of just begin to get in touch with it. And curiosity is always the first step.
All right, so curiosity.
You know, to be curious. Last time you notice yourself getting really angry, be curious about that. Say, okay, what made me angry? What about it? And if you can't tell, let your body tell you. You know, when you're thinking about that, again, notice the sensations. Track your own sensations. Don't try and stop them, or don't try to breathe deeply. You know, you're not trying to do anything. You're just tracking. You're noticing.
Okay.
And that can be really helpful. If you notice yourself starting to get angry and you may not be able to control your reaction to it, then remove yourself. Say, listen, I'm going to have to call you back, or can we stop now? Because I'm feeling myself getting really angry and I don't want to say anything that I regret, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right.
With couples I work with, they usually pick one word. That's
a great idea.
Yeah, and it's a neutral word.
Okay. Like, give us an example of
one couple picked the radio. You know, another couple picked banana. You know, and sometimes the word's kind of funny, and so it kind of eases the, you know, it gives you a little bit of comedic
what would
levity.
happen is they're in the middle of a rage coming up?
Yeah, we're in the middle of arguing, and all of a sudden I can tell that I'm about to lose it, or I can tell that you're about to lose it. So I say banana. And the idea is, the agreement is, we stop talking, period.
Oh,
and that
my
can
goodness.
be so difficult.
Oh, I bet.
But the agreement is also, we wait 30 minutes, because it takes about 30 minutes for the brain to come back online and to calm.
How interesting.
Yeah. And then we come back and talk about it. So we don't just let it go. Now, certainly with people who have kids or whatever, you know, you come back at night, maybe when the kids are asleep and stuff. It's, of course, you cater it to what's appropriate for your life. But the agreement is, we come back and we talk about it. The agreement isn't we just shove it under the rug.
Oh, I love that idea.
So
That's
with that
so
agreement,
great.
yeah, with that agreement, it makes it a little easier to stop, because you know you're going to be able to.
Right.
Now, when you go off to your own corners, you don't continue to think about what you're going to say next, because that'll keep you, you know,
to keep you fired up.
Exactly. So you go for a walk. You maybe listen to, you know, music that, you know, eases you, or you involve yourself in something else, something that's going to help calm you down.
Something that soothe you.
Yes, something that's going to soothe you. And then you go back to it. And if you have to say banana 20 times in 5 minutes, I don't care, because that'll get you used to.
Okay.
You know, that'll break that habit of arguing until you're both so fired up that you're just yelling at each other, and then it's the apology, I didn't mean to say that, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, we have some
Fabulous.
Periscope viewers at the moment, so if they would like to call in, they can call in at 323-284-7826. Again, 323-284-7826.
Hi, Periscope.
They've been chiming
Periscope.
into the conversation and getting a lot from it, so that's great.
Great.
Oh, wonderful.
Great.
Thank
Any
you.
angry Periscopers out there?
Well, they were talking about how anger sometimes be connected to trauma.
Oh, most definitely.
Yes. Do you want to speak about that?
Yeah, well, unresolved trauma can
Okay.
always bring anger. And actually, you know, violence, many times what's behind violence is unresolved trauma and anger. You know, like when someone goes to the school and shoots it up, you know, everyone always is very angry at the shooter, and I am too. But I'm also curious as to what about that shooter's life that would cause him or her to go and do that, you know, and there is something. There is something.
It's always what lies underneath. And
It's what lies
yeah.
underneath. You know, we're not born that way.
Right.
We just aren't.
Right.
You know, they call about sociopaths even, you know, that have a genetic predisposition. Yeah, we may have a genetic predisposition to not have a lot of connections between the thinking part of the brain and the emotional part of the brain, which is what we find in sociopaths. But the childhood environment will either make or break it.
Wow.
You know, the childhood environment, it's called the study of epigenetics. In the last 10 years, they've been really studying this, and they see that environment has much more of an influence than we used to think it had. Wow. And it's not to blame. Right. It's just to understand. You know, it's not about pushing blame, because most of our parents didn't really know. Their intentions were, my intentions were always positive with my daughter. And I know I messed up many times because I just didn't know, or I didn't have the information back then. Right. You know, so it's, so behind violence, there's a lot of trauma. And that makes people really, really
And
angry.
we have our first call from 405. You're on the air, 405.
Hello. I've a little bit of a problem. I'm usually, when I was thinking about like unresolved anger, I usually get mad all the time about the littlest things, and I'm very stubborn, and I can't let it go. As for example, today, like my boyfriend said he was going to come by to my job, but he never did, and I don't know why, but I'm still pissed about it, and we haven't talked, and I don't know how to go about it.
How do you usually react when you're angry?
I usually shove it under the rug. He always asks me what's wrong, but I usually don't say anything until I just bottle it up.
Okay. Do you eventually say something when you figure it out, or do you then just get angry or show it? Maybe?
I usually get angry. I mean, if he asks me all the time, then I probably will tell him. But I mean, usually the case is I shove it under the rug or I bottle it up.
Okay. Well, I mean, in that case, if you want to get in touch with your anger a little bit more, I would, again, notice your body when you're angry. Like, does your stomach get tight or does your chest get tight? And as you're noticing that, you'll notice maybe it dissipating a little bit. Or a thought, even if it feels random, will pop up in your mind, or an image or a memory. And that may help you kind of begin to uncover what it may be. Is there a pattern? Is it when people disappoint you or when people don't keep their word?
Keep their word, yes.
Okay. So then I might, I might be curious if that was something that happened in your childhood where you had a parent that was disappointing or didn't keep their word.
I never thought about it, but yeah, I guess so. It would have to be like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Many times what gets us angry in the present is more of a trigger. Not that we would like people not to keep their word, but when we notice ourselves getting really angry at something, then more often than not, it's triggered an unresolved issue from our past.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I guess I never thought about it like that, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that would be something that I might suggest you to maybe go to therapy, to just explore that, and be curious about it and resolve. When we can heal our wounds.
So powerful when we can.
Yeah, well, and therapy is a wonderful way to help healing the wounds. We all have wounds. When we can heal them, then they don't have to affect our present. And that doesn't mean that you're going to like it when people don't follow through, but you're not going to feel the same way. It's not going to trigger you as much as it does. You're going to be able to maybe even talk about it and say, hey, listen, it's not cool when you tell me you're going to do something and you don't.
It's very empowering, actually.
Yeah.
And Kelly, can you talk about the spiritual side of that?
The spiritual side. Yeah. May I ask you something? What is your birth date?
It's 4/24 of 91.
So how old are you? 4/24?
Yeah, 4/24 of 91, so I'm 24 right now.
Oh, so you're still very young. Okay. Well, and let's see. Interesting, because you also have a mind that just goes and goes and goes. A good therapist would be really good for you, probably. I'm going to launch right into that because you also have, it's funny, we've had a lot of issues with people that are not sleeping. Do you have trouble sleeping?
Kind of, not really. I mean, lately I have been.
Yes, I figured at least lately, because you got your mind is going and going. You will really be an empowered person. Getting in touch with your anger and dealing with it will push out a lot of unresolved issues and give you the power that you came into this lifetime to have. You came in with a tremendous amount of power. I don't even know if you're aware of it yet because you are so young still. You're only 24? Yeah, that's young. But as you get older, boy, you won't be, it's not good for you. It's not good for anybody to hold on to any old issues, but you're still young enough to start really dealing with anger or whatever the issues would be. Because you there's you have the some people hold on to things a little more, and I'm wondering if you do, if you're one of those people. Do you hold on a lot to the past?
Yes, I do. Unfortunately, my ex, I broke up with him a couple months ago before I met the guy who I'm with now, and he treated me like I'm sorry to say this, but like a brat. And so when he always followed through, and I shouldn't be like thinking about the past right now in the future. But yeah, I do.
Well, it's probably because it's got some unresolved. If he didn't treat you well, then, and especially with women, well, all relationships, right? When you've not been treated well, and then you bring that into the next relationship, you know, worried that the new one's going to treat me that way.
Right, and we originally get into relationships and stay in them if our partner, when our partner doesn't treat us well, because that's kind of the experience that we had as kids.
So true.
So there's a reason for that too. That's a pattern. But then we kind of almost keep adding to the cup of, men or your partners don't treat us well. So we come in with that expectation, and sometimes we don't realize how our own behavior may even cause that to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right though. I do bring the past a lot.
Yeah. Start working on that. Start letting go of the past, because it takes too much energy away from you. And you have a lot of energy. You came into this life with a lot of energy. Don't hold on to the old stuff. It's not going to serve you. Other than looking at it and then moving forward with great awareness that people are not going to take advantage of you, because I suspect that people have taken advantage of you.
Yes, a lot.
Yeah. Because people are drawn to you. You're like a Pied Piper. People are drawn to you. Do you are you artistic or musical or any of that?
I am. Well, I would say I'm artistic. I'm a fashion marketing major.
Oh, okay.
I love the style. I love photography. I love.
Continue on with that. That's going to be important in your career. That's going to be really important, and you always have to stay involved in a creative path.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And you'll get recognition in this lifetime. So stay involved in a creative path.
Okay. And regarding like relationships, so. How can I go about I guess what I'm trying to say is like I always freak out when it comes to meeting someone. Like I'm the guy I'm with now. He's possibly going to go to the NFL, and so it's just so scary to know that. I don't know how to explain it.
Like an abandonment issue.
I think so. Yeah, I think that.
Well,
I think that's probably hit it on the nose.
He's going to go into the NFL, so is it scary about trust issues?
Yeah.
I get it.
How can I go about fixing that or?
Well, I don't know that it's so much to fix it. I mean, certainly trust issues also comes from the two most important people in our lives, the primary attachments, which is mom and dad. So working through those issues, having someone help you kind of work through that and heal those wounds will help you. But, it's a very hard, you have to be very secure in yourself to be with someone in those kind of professions, because the reality is that they're, everyone, we all see people out there, and NFL, entertainment, it's very difficult. So it may give you the opportunity, however, to work on your own self-esteem and your own confidence.
Right. I mean, that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Get really secure with who you are as a person.
Okay.
And ultimately, if he does something that, that is not what the agreement between the two of you is, then with that confidence, you'll feel strong enough to be able to walk away, and you'll have feelings about it, of course, but those feelings won't crumble you. They won't overwhelm you.
You're a lot stronger than you can even imagine, actually. You come in with a really strong life force.
Okay, good.
Just remember I said that. Strong life force.
Okay.
You have it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We hope it helped.
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
Thanks
I
for calling
appreciate it.
in.
Thank you for calling. Have a good night.
No, thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
We have a Periscope viewer has been very, very chatty, let's say, and actually doing very well with giving advice in the chat room. so I want to give a shout out to in Whittier. He's come from Whittier, it looks like.
Well, hi.
Oh, okay.
So,
Thank you.
And if you'd like, you can call in 323-284-7826. Again, 323-284-7826. I'm holding the phone and trying to run the show, all these kind of things. So I will try to get to your calls if you'd like to call in. So I'll be watching for you.
Thank you for helping us out.
Oh, yeah.
Whittier. That's wonderful.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. Well, some people have already dealt with issues of anger, and they can help out with different things that they've done because, it's not one size fit all as far as what helps.
Right.
With getting in touch with your anger and working through it, But it is an important thing. And to normalize it for yourself, anger is a natural emotion, and it's actually a good emotion. It actually is the life force energy, and it will actually reduce. It can reduce your anxiety. It can reduce, getting in touch with that anger can actually reduce your anger about a whole bunch of things.
It can also lead us to great change.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I was working with this gal who had a lot of anxiety, and finally she got in touch with her anger, and I said, "What are you noticing now?" And she goes, "I feel relief." She was so scared that if she got in touch with the anger, it was just going to be out of control. Exactly. The anger wasn't going to stop. Or that she was going to become this. That's another myth that people think about is if I get in touch with my anger, I'm going to be this angry person walking around the world. And the exact opposite is true. It actually dissipates, so you can actually become you and who you are, and not this angry person. You're the angry person walking around the world while you're trying to squash the anger down and not get angry.
And that brings out a lot of anxiety too. By doing all of that.
Well, a lot of times, what's underneath anxiety is anger. Yeah. Wow.
And it's interesting with me, a lot of times with my anger, I hold it in, I shove it down, and I don't allow it to come out because I'm worried about how it's going to affect the other person if I was to explode. Because it just keeps mounting and mounting and mounting, and then they do something, and then boom.
And then you lose it because anger is energy, and that energy doesn't dissipate just because we don't say anything.
Now, I don't mean I lose it physically or any violence or anything like that. I just will say something and snap back, and they're not used to me ever doing that.
Well, you're such a kind person. It must throw people when you do.
It really shocks them.
But I'm glad that you're bringing that up, John, because that's exactly what it is. Anger, the stuff you didn't say something about, that's
resentment.
Energy. It's energy that gets stuck in your body. It doesn't just dissipate. If it dissipated, then we wouldn't even be talking about this, right?
So true.
You do something, piss me off, I ignore it, don't say anything, and then it goes away. Yeah. Okay, so it's like Groundhog Day,
Right.
But that's not how it works.
Piles up and piles up and piles up.
Because the energy doesn't dissipate unless we give it time and we focus in on it. I've said this many times, but the neuroscientists have a saying: name it to tame it. If we name it, we literally tame that emotion. So if we say, "Wow, I'm feeling really angry right now," we notice a little bit of, because we're giving it time, we're giving it movement, we're giving it, we're giving it space. Yeah. Okay. So if you don't want to explode, then it's important to say something when someone pisses you off. And if you think you're going to say it in a bad way, then give yourself some time.
Okay.
And if it's hard to do that, then that's the beauty of text and email. Put it in a text or an email, as you begin to start to get in touch with the anger and actually say something about it.
Yeah, yesterday I had a moment of I was seething with anger because I was exploring some areas of my life that I just feel like I haven't, moved forward in. And then it brought up some feelings of other people that I feel like, I don't want to say the victim, but I feel like have held me back or have not done their best to support me and so I don't know how to address that exactly, but I got very, very angry. Yeah. And I started to write an email and ready to tell this person off and say, I don't want to have anything to do with you any longer. And then I just stopped, and then I took a few breaths, and I just went to do something else, and then came back to it, and I didn't have that same seething
So you didn't send the email. I didn't
send that email. I started to write it out, but I didn't send it.
Right. That's actually a good thing. What happens with people is they'll write it out, and then they'll hit send.
Yeah.
When in actuality, perhaps you might want to, I don't know.
So it's like, don't make a permanent decision in that moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Well, you're in a heated state.
Yeah.
Because that's more of a reaction than a response.
Right.
So when I'm suggesting that if it's hard to kind of, tell somebody that they got you angry and do it in a text or email, I'm suggesting it when it's a response, not when it's a reaction.
Okay.
It's very good to write things out,
Yeah.
And actually write them,
That's a great idea.
Old school style,
Right.
the research shows that helps to get it out. And then you can then if you want to say something to that person, then we can edit it and we can make it, appropriate and really get the point across without having to be nasty or,
Right.
But yeah, always know that emotions pass. They're like waves in the ocean.
So
Sometimes they
true.
feel like a tsunami, sometimes they're a ripple, but always know. So never,
true.
ever, just like you did, John,
Yeah.
never send,
Yeah.
Right.
because in an hour you're going to feel different.
Right.
And different doesn't mean that you're not going to feel angry anymore, because if somebody
Right.
did something, but that rage,
Right. It was seething anger.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
And it doesn't normally happen with me, but it's just been building and building and building and
Yeah.
building, and finally I was just, yeah.
Well, and what happens then the focus gets on how nasty your email was, as opposed
Yeah.
to what that person did in the first place that got you angry. So you don't want to give.
Well, I was
going
going
to
to put that in the email.
Oh,
What
Right,
they
you
did.
were gonna add that?
I was going to add to the
Well-
email why this is coming from, where this is coming from, I should say.
Well, but that would be an
Yeah.
appropriate thing. Like
Yeah.
if I do something that upsets you, I want to know what I did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because unless I'm a jerk, I'm not doing it intentionally.
Right.
So I want to know. But if you come at me, in an angry way,
Yeah.
then the focus becomes, why
What's up
didn't you
with
just
you?
tell me?
Yeah.
Why did you have to be so angry? And the focus then shifts. So don't do anything to shift the focus.
Okay.
Say what you need to say in a way where you can just focus on that.
right. Right.
And, that's an important piece too.
Oh, you betcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You bet.
exercise, right? Get it out. Just do
That's a
something.
good one.
Yeah, do something.
Time, exercise.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's
Go for a
and
walk.
Go
Just
for a
cool
walk.
off.
Cool off.
Yeah, take a
Yeah.
shower.
Cooler heads will prevail.
Yeah.
And you're right, Shirley. It's not like we're not going to get things aren't going to bother us. Things
Oh,
are
yeah.
going to come up. I mean, Don and I just had a situation where somebody actually was going to rip us off for a lot of money, and it was we both just hit the roof. But he's taught me a lot about wait a minute. So he actually took several days to calm down, and it does sometimes. It's not just an hour.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it is several days.
Especially if it's been mounting for
If it's
several
been
days.
mounting,
Yeah.
and especially
Or
if,
months.
like in his case, other people have tried to take advantage of him, and after a while, that just builds up and builds up and builds up,
Yeah.
and kablooey after a while.
That's true. I mean, it's all it's you go back to past examples, and then that
Yes.
compounds the issue.
compounds
because you
it.
keep thinking, oh, this is another one of those people taking advantage of me, or this is one of
Right.
the, and then you just kind of fire at that person for all the other people who wronged you in the past.
Right.
You know what I
right.
mean? So
When
Right.
part of the whole, curiosity of it is, am I doing something causing people to take advantage of me? To be curious about what might be happening with me if it's something that's happening over and over and over again. I want to know, And again, it's not with judgment or criticism, with
Yeah.
curiosity. Like you're investigating, you're on this kind of, what is it, treasure hunt and figuring things out, Because, wouldn't you want to know about, yeah. But I think you're absolutely right. It is taking time, even taking days, to let you process through the anger.
Yeah.
Because ultimately the main point is to be able to feel the emotion and then to be able to respond in the way that I want to show up in the world. I mean, that's the key.
yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to not feel the emotion and squash that so I
Right.
can be this, person that never gets mad,
Right.
But to feel the emotion and then how do I want to deal with this? Sometimes not responding is a response.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's okay too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've done that a lot of times where I won't respond. And then I'll get to a place where I can talk about it. So it'll even take me 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it depends on what it is.
Depends on what it
Sure.
is,
Yeah. So I really want to stress, that anger is a very natural emotion. It's a healthy emotion. We call it healthy aggression. It's an emotion that was built in. It's an evolutionary emotion. If you're doing something to me, it's how I protect myself, so I can, I can survive and stay alive. So if you find yourself having an issue with anger, be curious about that and start to explore that, and read some stuff on it. This wonderful book, Mindful Anger, will give you some wonderful, normalizes the emotion of anger, first of all, like kind of like how we're doing, but then also gives you some wonderful exercises to help you,
Ooh.
begin to explore your own anger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So that's an important thing to do. Yeah.
Great.
Like any other emotion. Even sadness. There's emotions on one side that nobody likes to feel, and they suck. They don't feel good. Sadness, anger. Under anger is irritability, frustration. There's a lot of
Right.
subsets, right, of every emotion.
It's very interesting. There are some birth placements that come in to really experience emotion. So sometimes
Really?
I'll be doing readings for people, and I'm like, oh boy, you came in to experience emotion. Now, they may not like it, what I'm saying, but, then I'll ask them about their life path. Haven't you had a lot of ups and downs?
Right.
Well, matter of fact, I have. But there are some people that literally come in clearly to experience emotion. So they will pick situations that will bring up emotion.
That is so interesting.
Isn't that wild?
Wow.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That is wild. Because there's emotions on that side that suck to feel. But if
Right.
we don't, expand our container and our tolerance for these emotions, then the emotions on this side we're not going to be able to feel either. The happy,
The joy.
the joy, right? How many people do you know that something great happens to them and they're already looking for the next thing?
Oh.
They can't even sit in that, So I'll say, wait a minute, this great thing
Right.
happened. How does that feel? Can you let it in?
Mm-hmm.
And they're
So
like,
true.
what?
Yeah.
And you have to, if you've shut down one emotion, you've shut down all of them. And so sometimes
Oh.
we have to help people increase their container to feel
Wow.
emotions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes then on these, if we discuss it as a container, sometimes the container is so full of like one emotion, like anger, that you wouldn't be able to feel anything else.
Right. If you've always felt, if unfortunately you came from a childhood that was very chaotic or, just kind of didn't really meet-
Dysfunctional or-
dysfunctional, then you're used to feeling the bad emotions. So those ones you can, identify immediately, but you don't have any tolerance or you have no container for positive emotions.
Wow.
And so I start there.
So would that be what we would call a Debbie Downer?
Yeah. A Debbie Downer or someone who's always focused on the negative or even when something good happens, that happened, but
But,
whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'll say, wait a minute. How was that for you? So that person came here and then, or you were nominated for an award?
Right.
How is that? And I'll really slow it down. They want to keep talking and get to the next thing.
Right. It's so
but I'll
true.
slow it down and I'll
Yeah.
sit with that. And then sometimes if they don't even know how to feel it, I'll go, I'm feeling really excited for you. I feel my chest expanding. So I'm almost kind of teaching them how, how does it feel to you when you see me being so happy about what
Right.
happened to you?
Right.
And they're like, well, I don't know,
Right, right.
So it's really and you every time you slow it down, you're helping the container expand. There's some people, the Susie Sunshines of the world, that have never felt anger or sadness or any of the bad emotions because
Right.
we don't do that, Then you have to help expand a tolerance for that because then it balances it out. And then, whatever life throws your way, you can handle it.
Absolutely.
It's not sometimes it's not going to feel great, and that's okay. Working with emotions and having a capacity and tolerance for it doesn't mean they're not going to feel. Doesn't mean you're not going to feel them. It just means you will be able to get past them.
And just
That's
all
the
of us need to
difference.
remember when we come to this vibration or this dimension, we are come to experience lots of experiences, lots of emotional ups, downs, this good, that not good, and then you'll get past that, whatever it is.
The
too.
spiritual roller coaster.
It's a spiritual roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, once you allow for them, it doesn't mean you're not going to feel anything. People who are evolved or people who are, have healthy self-esteem and stuff, it's not that they don't feel. They do. They just know that they'll be able to get through it.
Yeah,
Right.
that's very true.
Right.
That's the big difference.
Yeah, boy, that's a good positive on that.
Yeah.
Should we open the call lines again?
Sure,
All right.
sure.
So if you'd like to call in, call 323-284-7826. Again, 323-284-7826. Hello to everybody viewing us on Periscope.
Hi there.
Hi, Periscope friends.
You can tune in also to ubnradio.com. This is a pre-recorded show, so right now we're live on Periscope and pre-recording at UBN. So again, 323-284-7826. All right, so we can keep going until we get another call. I just want to let them know that we weren't ignoring them out there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, we're happy that you're tuning in and maybe giving each other advice. You said on chat that we, unfortunately, since we don't have the phone in front of us, we can't participate
Yeah.
or read. But we're happy that we have the conversation going because it's such an important conversation.
Very important.
Yeah. Yeah,
especially as this year progresses this year. Again, it's a 9-ending year. So people will go through all kinds of emotions, ending relationships, ending their careers, beginning new things. And that could cause a lot of emotions. It could be, maybe they want to end because they're angry and pissed off. Maybe they've had enough of their mate.
Right.
Or enough of their boss or whoever they work for or with.
Right. Or maybe they want to end this angry cycle and really explore it, and start a different, a different
paradigm, a different way to think.
Different paradigm. Yeah. Where anger can be one of the many emotions that I feel. I don't have to feel anger all of the time.
No.
Yeah. So it's an important topic and an important subject to talk about. Yeah. People are much too afraid of emotions. And as a parent, I have to tell you, one of the most valuable things that you can give to your child is to teach them to identify their emotions. It's going to take them, it's one of the most valuable gifts because it helps regulate. It helps us regulate. It helps a kid know that, wow, I felt sad and I got through it. So I don't have to be afraid of sadness. Or I felt mad and I got through it. There's these wonderful charts that you can get on Amazon or something where it shows the cartoon faces and the emotion.
Oh, wow.
Reminds me of that movie Inside Out. We've talked about many times, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you buy that, you throw it on your fridge, and every time your kid is having either a tantrum or something, you say, okay, how are you feeling? And let them pick it out. And you're getting the child to identify what they're feeling. And again, you validate that emotion. I could see why you're sad when, your friend Bobby hit you at school. That must have made you angry.
And it sounds funny, but you can use that with adults too.
Absolutely.
I've had a lot of people that don't understand emotions.
Yeah. You can. Actually, I had a patient of mine that grabbed one of those and put it on the fridge for herself.
Interesting fact about that movie, Inside Out, was that if you noticed, the child, right, Riley, I think was her name, she had both male and female emotions. The characters were both male and female, but when they went to the mothers or the fathers were all female and the fathers were all male.
That's so interesting.
So I picked that up and I was like, what is that about? So I went online and I started Googling, like, what was that about? And there's all kinds of theories from gender development to, trying to decide, sort of the gender fluid thing, if they're going to, where they're going to identify gender-wise.
Wow, interesting.
Is that something you mean that the movie?
No, other people were making their own, I guess, conclusions, observations, whatever, about why was that. So they questioned the artist and the director and all that, and they said that it was really a matter of casting than anything, than it actually was, and the focus so much was on Riley and casting for those, those people. So
those emotions.
It wasn't necessarily planned that way.
I would think that it would be more of an oversight, that it just kind of made sense for the mom to have all female, emotions and
Good catch on that.
But that's
really
an interesting thing to notice.
Because I was watching that and I was like, is she not sure if she's identifying male or female? Because that's a big thing right now is the gender identity, so.
Well, I just don't think it has to be so, there has to be just such a dividing line.
Yeah.
We can be more female-like in some things and male-like in other things, and that should be okay. We've made it so it's such a dividing line.
When I do readings for people, some people, you are included, literally you come in with a male brain.
Yeah. But we're all male and female energy.
Yeah.
So we go back and forth between which, Yeah.
Yeah, we can be more, female-like when we're tackling an issue, right? More
or
sensitive,
nurturing,
right.
whatever the qualities
and
are,
more
feminine.
business-like or male-like when we're tackling other things.
Right.
But it is a lot more accepted, I think, in our culture to be female with a male brain than to be male with a female brain, or more female-like for male. Not so much, especially with the people, I think, the groups that we hang out with.
Maybe.
But I think still maybe with, in general, I think it's more accepted that way around. I hope I'm wrong, but it seems like it might be. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, I think we've come to the end of the show.
Okay.
It flew by really quickly, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Periscope
Thanks,
friends,
Periscope.
for
Yeah.
looking and participating and calling.
And then your camera to the UBN peeps.
Yes.
as well.
Camera to the, thank you for
I know
that,
we've got cameras all over the place. So they're like, where do I look? Where do I look? Yeah. Exactly.
But thank you for listening in. And, if you have any comments or you have any suggestions on topics you'd like us to talk about, please let us know. Send us messages on Facebook. Or can
At Both Sides Now TV on Facebook.
Yeah.
And also on Twitter. You can add us to Twitter, Both Sides Now TV as well on Twitter. And
Yes.
you can email me, John W. at UBN Radio, for if you'd like to be considered on the next call-in show. So,
Perfect.
all right.
So thank you for listening. Have
Thank
a good
you.
afternoon.
All right.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo Dr. Shirley and Kelly White.
Two perspectives, one world.